is Gary, and this is Edward and Amanda with the Heavy Cardboard Podcast. We're glad to have them down here for the West Texas Tabletop Con. We thought we'd just kind of sit down and have a conversation about gaming, your podcast, and just whatever else we talk about. Well, can you guys tell us a little bit about your podcast and what you guys do for people that may not be as familiar with it?
Sure. So Heavy Cardboard's our podcast, as you can see here. We focus on the heavier end of the hobby, so it's great that people come into the hobby, they see what all's out there, and then as their tastes change, I'm not going to say mature, but as their taste may change, they want to find out what else is out there, and stuff heavy economic or things that tend to take more time. Like for us, I would say like a normal game is an hour and a half to 4 hours, for the most part. But it's just we try and shine the light on games that don't get a lot of publicity and are pretty much neglected by a lot of mainstream media.
Games. Yeah, so maybe those games that when you first get into the hobby and you're playing, Catan or Ticket to Ride.
Sure.
You're not finding this at Target or whatever. So,
exactly. Everything. There's a running joke by a lot of our listeners that say we just wait until games are out of print and then we talk about them. Right,
yeah,
but that's not always true.
Just coincidentally, it happens that way sometimes.
Sometimes it does, yes.
No, when did you guys yourself get into the hobby? How long have you guys been playing games?
Oh, we've both been playing games our whole life, just not these types of games.
Right.
It was about...
I mean, we all started, Risk, Monopoly, and all that stuff as kids when we were younger.
But we started deep in it about
2013 or so. So
okay.
it's only been 3 years, almost to the month, that we've been in this hobby, and we just full bore. We started out with 6 games. We had like Carcassonne, Arkham Horror, Zombies. We had that, and then within a 12-month, within 1 calendar year, we had over 600 games.
Whoa! So like that. I mean, you guys just went. I mean, you basically took that big jump.
I don't know how to do any hobby, that isn't full bore. So
so
pretty much just boom and it's funny. We actually backed a couple of games on Kickstarter, and by the time those games delivered, our taste had completely changed.
Wow.
And there we are in the deep end.
We didn't even open.
You're like a filler game or something like that.
Yeah, it would be like, I mean, don't get me wrong. We enjoy filler games, and all these other games have their place. Just the stuff that really scratches the itch is, I like to say, our podcast, and the reason we play games is competition and decision making. There are people that play because they want to get immersed in a theme and all that, which that's totally fine for folks. For us, we want to be able to play a game that just absolutely just engages our brain 24/7 while we're playing that game, and we want to know that when we won a game, we won because, say, if you and I are playing a game, I won because I made better decisions than you did, as opposed to a roll of the dice, a draw of the card.
I didn't get some luck.
Right, exactly. Which, again, those have their place.
Yeah.
Just for us, that's what we enjoy.
We don't want to spend 6 hours playing a game and
it comes down to a die roll. Right.
So your personal gaming taste definitely. I mean, you're reviewing games and that you actually really enjoy. I mean, you're not
our
like
wheelhouse.
Yeah, it's not like you're liking lighter games, but you're reviewing heavier games.
No.
I mean, that's what you'd be playing if you weren't reviewing.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And the whole reason the podcast started was, I have 8 hours a day to where I can listen to stuff, be it podcasts, be it music, whatever. And when we first were getting into the hobby, and we realized, hey, this heavier end of the spectrum is really where we like. There's nobody out there talking about it, and I'm like, man, that stinks. And I'm of the mind that if you voice a issue with something, have a solution. The solution is Heavy Cardboard. So here we are, and that's how it started. And the whole impetus of why we want to keep going with it and why we enjoy doing it is there's got to be other people like us that want to be able to listen and find out about these games out there, but there's just a very, very, very few. Honestly, I think it's us, Punching Cardboard, and to a lesser degree, the low player count guys, and that's it. I mean, yeah, there's a little bit of crossover here and there between other shows, but really, it's us and maybe one or two other shows, and that's it.
Definitely looking at your catalog of your podcasts or your episodes. Definitely, I don't see a lot of crossover personally. So I guess is that something that is like as media creators? Do you kind of look at? Do you look at what other people are reviewing when you're deciding what to review?
I wouldn't say
No,
that
we don't
doesn't
base it on
dictate
it,
it
no.
on that. But
Okay.
early on, we had the first review out of Panamax, which everybody and their mother has since reviewed. And then there are games like Food Chain Magnate. But it's games that we think people, our audience, will want to hear about. And it's like our most recent episode that we just released a couple days, or yesterday in fact, was Panthelos. And I had heard about it, I think, from one person before I actually got a copy of the game.
So
And we looked on BGG, 250 people own this game, period. And so we were like, so we tried the game first. We tried the game first, and we were like, this is really, really good. And we're like, this game needs some love, and there you go. And
So,
that's how it works.
So essentially, you can, and that is, I guess, are you guys using the platform you have to maybe try to give some popularity to this game? So
Absolutely.
not necessarily go chasing. So you guys would say, I guess, you're not really chasing popular games, although there may be some crossover. Like Panamax was fairly big. And Stronghold
Terraforming
games,
Mars is a new game from Stronghold that we're excited to review, and I think Dice Tower and some other folks have
Definitely.
already reviewed it. So it's not that we're chasing the hotness, but it's just we try and divvy the podcast season up into two halves. So basically from like August through like February, thereabouts, that's all, Cult of the New.
Okay.
But because the games that we focus on so much come out usually at Essen, there are some exceptions. So that part of the year is all, what's new? And then like from February to August, we reviewed stuff like Puerto Rico and other things that have been out for eons. And so yeah, we a little bit of both. Cult of the old,
cool.
Cult of the new.
Well, we need to be able to incorporate that. As far as like mechanically, or what kind of games you guys are interested in, since especially I guess for you guys, being a couple there, is there a lot of crossover in between between you two? Like as far as like what do you like mechanically? Do you both like worker placement or auction games? Or what are your individual interests?
I really like worker placement.
As do I.
Yeah,
Well
worker
done, well
placement.
The best kind of game.
Right.
Exactly. He likes more war games than
Yes.
I
Okay.
do, but
Yep.
I'm wanting to get more into those.
Okay.
It's just actually, having time to do that. And I like more card games than he does.
Okay.
I like Dominion and things like that. He does not at all.
And I come from a Magic background, like Magic the
Really?
Gathering.
So that's
yeah,
kind
I
of
just
strange
I think
that now you're.
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to them. It's not my thing. And we're big into auctions
Yes.
as well. So I would say probably auctions, worker placement. Amanda really enjoys having her own
I love
tableau.
having my own tableau and my own set of tasks to go do and go get.
Okay. So.
Right. Yep.
What trends do you guys see in the heavier games, kind of segment of the hobby? What trends do you see, right? Since you do get some of the Cult of the New, what do you see developing, and where do you see that going in the future?
And that's a good question, because that's kind of tough. That I don't know that I see any in particular trends as far as like, this mechanic is hot, or this theme is hot. Although this seems to be the year of Martian games.
Yeah, what's up with that?
Yeah, right. Martian and Vikings. So
Yep.
okay, all right, cool.
Vikings on Mars would be like
Right.
a great
I
crossover.
mean, that's obviously the next step, right?
Let's go. We're gonna,
But the thing that we've noticed, and this really started at Essen of last year at Spiel, was Food Chain Magnate kind of became the poster boy for approachable heavy games. Because until Food Chain Magnate came out, I always recommended games like maybe Puerto Rico, or if you want to go a step above that, maybe something like Le Havre as good jumping off points for heavy games. Well, now Food Chain Magnate has blown up, and exactly. And Splatter, they normally print 1,000 to 2,000 copies, and I think they're coming up on 10,000 copies, which is staggering. And the fact that I would say the trend is a lot of people are starting to get into heavier games, which is awesome for two reasons for us. One, hey, come listen to the podcast,
There you go.
right?
Yeah, so there's your audience is just organically building.
Right. Not only that, but also if publishers see that, oh wow, people really want these real meaty, thinky, heavier, longer games, they'll get away from the 15-minute, 30-minute filler, which again, those have their place. But I want, as a person who's in the hobby, not as a podcaster, just as a gamer, I want that section of the hobby to get as much love as other parts do, and I think they'll make more games. More games will come out that are in our wheelhouse, so to speak.
That sounds good. I mean, I'm tending to skew towards the heavier games myself, so your podcast has been a really good resource. I mean, I mentioned that to you guys earlier.
Checks in the mail. Good.
Yeah, there you go. No, I really do. So as far as like what, is your podcast? How has that maybe evolved over the years? I know. Well, first of all,
I'm on it,
you weren't
yes,
on it,
correct.
So now you're on it, which is great. I mean, where do you guys see your podcast moving? Are there any like segments, or I mean, you may not want to talk about all that, but in detail, but. Is there anywhere you see that podcast maybe kind of traveling? Is it on a kind of a path that you want?
We are starting to do more video content.
That's
We
cool.
are doing playthroughs of games to where we sit down and we play the entire game.
Really popular on YouTube.
Yeah.
It
yeah.
seems that way, so we figure, and
The
again,
heavier games aren't being featured.
like
so
Arkwright, we're gonna be featuring that. We're gonna be doing a playthrough of that, which won the Golden Elephant Award, which is our award last year or 2 years ago for best game of the year for us. So yeah, exactly. Video content. We're trying to get more listener participation on the show. We have a new voicemail that folks can call into
That's
and
cool.
do that because we want to be approachable. We're no different than anyone else in this hobby. We just happen to have a couple of microphones
Yes.
in front of us, right?
Exactly.
So we're going to be traveling to more cons. Like I'm going to Essen this year. Going to get more interviews with publishers and designers. Again, tending to skew on the heavier end and the more underrepresented, I think would be a good way to put it, designers and publishers that are out there. So just kind of that, and dabbling into the video end, because Lord knows how much editing goes into that.
Yeah, definitely. That definitely changes how things go. I mean, the workload is different with the video.
Very much so.
As far as like reviewing games, and we started talking about this briefly before we were on camera. Like reviewing games that you maybe don't like, or this game's gonna be reviewed, and you're like several plays into it, and you just how does that affect things, how you view games when maybe you don't like it, but you're having to play it so you can give an opinion.
Sure.
It's definitely not easy always to play a game 4 or 5 times that you don't like.
Yeah.
But we still do because we committed to doing that and to reviewing that game. So even if we don't like it, we're going to talk about it.
Right.
And give our opinion on it, whether it's good or bad.
Right, and we say there's 3 tenets that we abide by whenever we review a game: fair, thorough, and honest. Plain and simple. If we don't like a game, we're gonna say as much. But at the same time, this is somebody's baby. They've spent time, effort, money. This is what they produced, and so I understand wanting to be honest, and we will be. But at the same time, you can highlight the high points, because there's, even in a game you don't like, hey, the artwork's nice, whatever, this or that, you fair and balanced, you take care of both sides. But in the end, it is our opinion of the game, and we're 2 people, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so sure, we want people to listen and take our opinion with some amount of weight, but we also recommend that
You
people
play it yourself.
Yeah, play the
Because,
game
like,
yourself.
My very first review was of Twa, and I gave it a 2.
Yeah,
I
which
think
is
on our scale.
on a 1 to 6 scale,
So
which
that's pretty
That's
low.
pretty
yeah,
low. And so- but-
Twa's loved by a lot
Yeah,
of people. So,
just, I mean, a lot of people may think I'm wrong. A lot of people may agree with me, but that should give you an indication that I'm not gonna be nice just because
Well, it
I
also
feel like I need to
establishes
be.
that you guys, you don't want to compromise or
absolute our integrity.
Yeah, your
is,
integrity there.
No.
No,
Like, you
that
know,
is
hey,
too important to
I
us.
don't like it. Well, kind of on that same note, can you think of any games that you guys have been reviewing and, first player to you just think, I'm just not going to like this, and then somehow, once you kind of get that game, get it under your belt, like, it shines, that kind of gem that you didn't like it at first, now you do.
I'll give you a minute to think.
Yeah.
So one jumps out at me. So back when Tony was my co-host on the show, he recommended we do a game by R&R Games called Masters of Venice, and it is the epitome of fiddly. It's an economic stock investing game in which you're moving. You literally every time you sell or buy a good, you have to move pegs and all that. And I just thought this is going to be tedious. This is going to be horrible, and the whole 9 yards. And it was a chore to get me to play it the first time. After that, I couldn't stop
Really?
playing it. I was
So-
like, this is unbelievable. This is so much better than I ever thought it would have been. Yes, people need to go out, check this game out, give it a try. If you tried it once, give it another try. It's really that good. So that was the one that always sticks in my head is just, wow, this was way better than I expected.
So, first impression.
I can't think of anything.
Really? So,
I only can go the other way.
all right. So what the other way? What?
Yeah, what you loved and didn't like now.
One game that pops into my head immediately that I really liked the first time that we played it was Automobile.
Okay.
And then the more we played Automobile by Martin Wallace, the further down it went on my likable.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Because
And
he
see,
loves it.
mine went the
Yeah.
other way.
So, okay, so
there you
that's
go.
where your taste.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing. The fact that we're not
We're not attached. We're attached at the hip, but not about everything.
right. Not when we can have our own opinions
Yeah.
on games.
Well, I do want to thank you guys. I've enjoyed talking with you guys. I want to give you guys a minute to go ahead and just tell everyone where they can find you online. And
Sure.
I guess
Cool.
Everything, the hub is heavycardboard.com. He is very active on Twitter at heavycardboard. I am less so at Amanda U. I'm more active on Instagram. I am at AmandaU825 over there. We have our Facebook at Heavy Cardboard on
Basically,
there.
Google
Yeah.
Heavy Cardboard,
Well, I
you will
think-
find
yeah,
us.
We're not the boxes, we're the show. And so, as long as you don't click on the boxes, you should
Right.
find us.
Cool.
All right. Well, thank you guys.
All right,
Enjoyed
thanks a lot
talking
for
with
having
you
us.
and
Yes.
enjoy your time here.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
it should be a lot of fun. Looking forward to it.